Hi, my name's Leah Henderson, and I grew up in Paint Lick and attended Paint Lick Elementary, Garrett Middle School, and Garrett County High School, and graduated from there in 2003. From there, I went on to attend Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach, Florida, for both my bachelor's degree and my master's degree. I'm currently an airport consultant, which means I do work for airports around the country, predominantly in Alaska and in the western half of the United States. I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about careers in aviation. Growing up in Garrett County, aviation isn't really one of those things that gets talked about a lot. There's not a huge need for aviation within Garrett County, and I kind of fell into aviation. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about my story and how I got into aviation, and tell you how you too can get into aviation. Growing up, I had a strong interest in being a doctor, specifically a radiologist. And when I was attending Garrett Middle School, I actually went with my stepmother to the hospital, and I shadowed one of the radiologists over at Ephraim. And I was still interested in it, but I realized that I was a little more interested in some other science and math type careers. And so I started looking into meteorology and astronomy. So when I was sitting in your seat today, that's kind of where I thought my career was going to go. I was going to do the weather. Not on TV, but I wanted to do the weather. But as I went through high school, I did a lot of research into weather programs and astronomy programs, and decided that meteorology was where I wanted to be. But I wanted to do something specific with meteorology. I didn't want to do TV. I didn't want to just work at the National Weather Service office and be just a plain forecaster. I wanted to do something unique. And so I had always had a little bit of an interest in aviation. I traveled a lot growing up and had seen a lot of airports through the years. And so I began researching aviation meteorology. As you, of course, know, when planes fly, they're flying through clouds and they're flying around weather. And so they, of course, have to have meteorologists specifically for that, to help them forecast and tell them where they can and can't go and what the conditions are for their destination as well. So I started researching schools, and I narrowed down my selection of schools to a few, mainly Florida schools. I think I was looking for warm weather. But I was really interested in aviation weather and aviation forecasting. So I went down to school in Daytona Beach, Florida at Embry-Riddle, and started my weather degree program. And when you start school at Embry-Riddle, everything revolves around aviation, since it's an aviation-focused school. And so I really got immersed in, with lots of pilots, with air traffic control degree programs, and then some engineering programs. So I was really immersed, and my interest started to grow in aviation. I realized that I really, really liked aviation, and perhaps I wanted to do more than just weather. So I started a minor in air traffic control, and I loved my air traffic control classes. And as I progressed through college, I did an internship between my junior and senior year forecasting for United Airlines, and I thought, wow, this is going to be great. I'm going to get lots of good experience, and this is really the direction I want to go. I did the internship in that summer, and I realized that I really was not having much fun drawing maps sitting in an office all day. I really wanted something a little more fast-paced and something not quite as repetitive. And so I decided that I would just do my master's degree in aviation management at Embry-Riddle as well. And through that, I thought, well, I could go back and be an air traffic controller, and that would help me progress to be a supervisor or a manager in the future if I had that master's degree. So that was kind of my plan. So now I'm on, I think, plan 5 by this point in my life in college. And so I started working on my master's degree, and started researching more aviation management type opportunities. And actually, I remembered a TV show where it was called LAX. I think it only lasted one season, but the show was focused on the airport manager of the Los Angeles airport and kind of her day-to-day life. And I remembered that, and I thought, wow, that was really interesting. Maybe airport management is something I would be interested in too. And so I did some research, and I applied for a couple of internships. And I took the first one that I was offered, and so I moved to Casper, Wyoming. And I started a job working directly for the airport manager, doing some day-to-day activities at the airport, and really, really enjoyed my position there. And they liked me enough to keep me, and so they created a position for me, and I actually stayed in Casper and started my official first job out of graduate school there in Casper as the projects and programs manager. And so from there, I wanted to grow my career. I knew I wanted to become an airport manager myself and not be working for someone else, have my own airport. And so I started looking for positions, and I went to a town in southwest Wyoming called Rock Springs and became the airport manager there for a little while. It was a very stressful job, and it always wasn't easy, but I really enjoyed my job there in Rock Springs. But I had loved Alaska, and I had spent summers in Alaska in college and knew I wanted to come back up to Alaska. And so when the opportunity presented itself to take a position as an airport consultant in Alaska, I jumped right on it and moved to Alaska, where I live today. So many times when people think about careers in aviation, or they think aviation in general, they think about a commercial airplane and being the pilot, or maybe being the flight attendant. But they don't really consider all those other jobs that go into supporting that pilot, like I mentioned earlier with the aviation weather forecasting. But they don't realize that there's people at the airport, there's people that work for the government, there's people that work for the aircraft manufacturers, there's people that have to maintain the airplanes. There's all this wide array of jobs that are all associated directly with aviation and with airports. And so that's what I really want to tell you about today, is all the different opportunities that exist in aviation. So if you really like planes, or you think planes are cool, and if you especially like science and math courses in school, then aviation can be something that would be of interest to you. Believe it or not, there's graphic designers that work in aviation. There's architects that work in aviation, because someone has to build that airport terminal building, right? There's engineers that design the airplanes. There's engineers that design the runways themselves, which is more what my career does right now. There's also the air traffic controllers and the towers that help tell the airplanes where to go and keep them from running into each other. There's the airlines themselves, which have lots and lots of people behind the scenes that are helping coordinate where the airplanes are all going and doing the sales and the reservations. So really with aviation, the sky's really the limit, as funny as that sounds. But there's so many different career paths that are not just being a pilot. Not that there's anything wrong with being a pilot, but there's so many other things that you can do with aviation. Say you want to be an electrician, or you want to be a plumber, or maybe you just want to be a contractor and you want to build things and do construction. All of those jobs directly relate to an airport and to aviation. We need those positions every day. For example, the airport that I started working at in Casper, Wyoming, it's a fairly small airport. It does have passenger service by airplanes to Denver and Salt Lake City, as well as Las Vegas. But on staff, there were 30 people. There were people that help take the money at the parking lot when you come in and out of the parking lot. There's several electricians, there's several plumbers, because the airport's over 5,000 acres of land and buildings. There's hundreds of buildings on the airport, and somebody has to maintain all of those buildings. And so we had a huge maintenance staff. We also had police and firefighters. Each airport that has commercial service from an airliner, they all have to have firefighters on the ground. And so there's police, there's the Transportation Security Administration, there's the TSA folks that make sure that you're clear and you're not carrying anything dangerous onto the plane when you arrive at the airport. There's the people checking you in at the airport, taking your ID and printing off your ticket and taking your bag for you. Really, anything and every job that you can think about is almost directly related to aviation. So of course, each different career path within aviation has different education requirements. But they all definitely require at least a high school diploma. So definitely need your high school diploma to get a job in aviation or in an airport. And then from there, there's lots of different paths you can go. You can go to and get an associate's degree for some programs. You can go for your bachelor's degree. You can go all the way up through your PhD in aviation. And there's also some other just kind of technical schools that you can go to learn different trades, like perhaps to be an aircraft mechanic. You can go and take classes for just specifically that without having to do an actual degree program. So it really depends on the career path that you want to take, what type of education you need. Like I mentioned, I did both my bachelor's and my master's degree before I started my first job in aviation. I have some packets for you from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, the school that I attended in Florida. They have a school in Florida, they have a school in Arizona, and then they also have these smaller worldwide campuses all across the world, predominantly at military bases. And then there's also one in Louisville, so there is one in Kentucky that you can attend. And then they also have classes online that you can take as well, which is actually how I finished my last year of my graduate degree. So beyond Embry-Riddle, that's kind of the Harvard of aviation as far as schools go. Believe it or not, but Eastern Kentucky University, EKU, just up the road, has an aviation program as well. And it's actually a really good aviation program. You can learn to be a pilot and fly out of the Madison County Airport, of which the school is overseeing right now. So you can also get some airport management, day-to-day operation type experience there at the Madison County Airport. And then they also have just some general maybe aviation management programs as well. So there's some information about EKU's aviation programs, and then there's also a short video on their website that you can check out too. Or if you have any other questions directly about their programs, then feel free to contact them over in Richmond. There's also other schools all across the country that specialize in aviation. Some of the bigger ones are the University of North Dakota and Southern Illinois University as well, and then Florida Institute of Technology in Cocoa Beach, Florida also has a fairly large aviation program. So there's lots of different programs out there that you can do. And then of course, if you want to get started on perhaps your pilot's license, that's something you could get started on even today, even though you're not even 16 yet. You could get started on those programs and start learning how to fly. There's an airport over in Danville, and they have flying lessons as well. And or you could go over to the Madison County Airport in the Berea, Richmond area too, and they offer flight lessons. So there's lots of things you can do today to get started if you're interested in aviation. There's an aviation museum over at the Lexington Airport, and there's also camps that they put on. I'm not sure exactly the requirements as far as age goes for those day camps that they do in the summer, but there is kind of an aviation camp that the museum puts on at the Bluegrass Airport over in Lexington. So there's lots of different requirements, but the number one thing is you definitely have to finish high school and get your high school diploma, and then really figure it out from there where you think you'd like to go and end up. But an associate's and a bachelor's degree is definitely the best path to take, no matter what you're going to do. If you want to be a pilot, pilot training on its own is not enough. You need a degree if you want to be hired by a major airline like Delta or United. So even if you don't have an interest in aviation now or in the future, what I really want you to take away from me chatting with you via video today is that whatever you think you want to do today, or whatever you think you want to do when you graduate high school or even graduate college, that it's going to constantly evolve and it's going to constantly change, and that's okay. It's okay for your career to change paths multiple times, and that's kind of exciting. Actually, you get to experience different things and end up with a position that you really, really like, because it's really hard when you're 13 or 14 years old sitting in 8th grade to really understand what's out there and understand all the endless possibilities for a career or a job for you in the future. So I wanted to share my story and tell you that, I went from being a doctor to doing weather to being an airport manager to doing something a little bit different now in aviation, and that it's okay to change your mind along the way, and that it's good to change your mind. And if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email or give me a call at any time as well, and I can tell you a little bit more about aviation or getting into aviation careers. Thanks, and have a great day.